Do you want to plant for a beginner gardener that's easy to grow and is going to give you a ton of amazing, delicious harvest? Let's talk about shelling peas today. Today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on growing peas. I will show you some things that I've done to have a lot of success with this easy, beginner-friendly plant that's easily grown in the garden. And let me tell you, you're going to get a ton of harvest, okay? I cannot tell you how many bowls of peas my family and I have gotten from some of these vines. So let me show you the best way to grow these. So the best time to sow your peas is in early spring. So I usually do that right around Easter. I know around Easter time is when I'm going to plant my peas. So these are two varieties I planted this year. Now these are from Territorial Seed Company, which is here in Oregon. And these are two different types. One is a super sugar snap, and it's got 58 days till it's ready. And then this one is Alaskan Early, which again is 57. So you want to look for these sorts of seeds that are going to give you a really good crop. These are some that worked really well for me. And you want to look for ones that are going to be early to produce or early to come into bloom. That's the way you're going to get lots of harvest. So another thing about sowing your peas is you want to just go ahead and direct sow them. So if you wait for that right timing and you've prepared your bed, it's really easy to just sow these directly into the ground. Now, I haven't done it in my actual earth in my garden. I'm using raised garden beds for this, so I can control the amount of, what's in the soil, how nutritious the soil is. So that is another tip I have for you, is just to really build a solid foundation as far as your soil and amendments. I personally have only fertilized my peas a few times, but it's really good for them to start in great soil. Another thing that's really important as you prepare your beds for your peas is to think about supports that you're going to need. Now, this goes everything from larger supports, like I have this really awesome trellis that my husband helped me build this year, but even smaller supports too. So here's a couple things I use when the seedlings are smaller. I just have some dowels here that I cut, and then any kind of wrapping sort of medium. So you could use, twine, string, yarn. You could use some wire. This is some that I like, and it's a wire, but it's padded, but it's also very flexible. So I'll be sure to link some of this stuff below for you. So when they are babies, you need to kind of get them going in that vertical, direction. And then what I did is I kind of lean these where I want them to attach for their final journey into adult peahood. So let me talk about a little bit more about some of the bigger structures in place. So of course, the first most obvious one is the one here behind me. Again, this was made out of a chicken wire basically, and some landscaping fencing stakes. So I will link the video below where my husband and I built these. It's really simple to do, especially if you have a good helper like me. So once you've got your right timing, your peas in the ground and some good soil, you've got some supports, you've got some larger supports ready to go, then that's the easy part, you guys. You just water the things, and with the right sunlight and the right temperatures, they just will go. It's amazing to see how tall they get. So any other advice I'd have for you is to make sure you have plenty of vertical space for them to grow. Let me show you a couple other things I'm doing with my peas over here, and a couple things I've done in the past as well. So again, here's just a close-up of the structure that we're using here and the type of fencing with zip ties to help hold everything into place. Just some simple wooden planter boxes and everything kind of zip tied together there. So that's the largest structure that we have. Over here, I'm not growing eating peas, I'm growing my sweet peas. But over in my side yard, I have another area where I'm growing some peas this year. So over here in my Vigo garden beds, I have these peas growing, and I wanted to show you these supports. Now we'll talk about the state that these peas are in a minute, but The support actually is a folding trellis, and what's nice about it is you can, make it as wide or narrow as you want to fill whatever space you have. So you can see I'm growing these very narrow, so nothing's growing in between them, but I really heavily seeded at the bottom here and then just started training them up. You'll also notice I have some twine wrapped around there, and again, that is for extra support. So that's another tip I have for you is once these get tall, you might need to provide more support for helping them adhere to whatever trellising situation you have. So here's the other patch, and you can see they kind of went up and then found their way sort of down. Now that can be good and bad. This bush seems to have handled that transition pretty well, and so some of these vines are, facing downwards, but this one unfortunately did not, and some of these main branches broke. Now luckily I had about 2 harvests from this particular patch before that happened, but let me show you a little bit more about this side of the bed. So you can see I still have some peas that are flowering, so I've left a lot of this, but what's starting to happen is even the parts that are broken off are pushing new growth. Now I don't know if I'll have enough time to get one more harvest out of this bush, but I decided not to tear these out yet. And that's the other thing about peas. So another tip I have for you is they will kind of tell you when they're done. They will turn yellow, it will get too hot for them, and they will look real unhappy. So once that starts to happen, then it's time to start to pull them. So you can see I'm getting a little bit of yellowing already here from some of the hot days that we've had. But they'll tell you when they're ready to come out. And so that's another sort of helpful thing about being able to grow these plants. Thing I've done in this bed is I have underplanted this. So if you get in here closely, you'll see I have zinnias in here. So I have a second planting getting ready to pop, and that's something I've been doing in my both veggie garden and cut flower patches, is anticipating what's coming next and getting that plant going underneath before you actually harvest and finish up with one of your crops. So I call that flipping the bed. I don't know if that's officially what it's called, but you can see I'm getting ready to flip this bed when these are done as the days get hotter. For the last, I would say 3 summers, I have done a similar thing, but I've done it over here on the side of my house. Now at that time, these beds were about half the height that they are now. Of course, these are my new Vigo beds and they're absolutely awesome. Sorry, there is a little construction going on next door if you hear some banging. Anyway, so what I did and what my husband and I did is we actually ran string up to our fascia board. Now, it might not have been the best solution, but I don't know if you can see up there, we've got the eye bolts still from where we had a couple pieces of, I would say twine, not string, but larger twines, and we just hooked it back and forth and kind of made the supports that way. That worked really well as well, although I'd still say I had the problem with them flopping over. So the kind of, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words. Hold on a second. So what I'm trying to say is the ones that have the kind of like teepee shape, those are actually working a lot better than this string that we had. But you can make a support with anything. You can buy just one of those bigger tomato cages. I would say maybe not the smaller round ones, but like the bigger square ones. And you can find those anywhere, right? Like Home Depot or whatever you have near you, Lowe's. We have a place called Jerry's or Fred Meyer. So anyway, you got to get your supports in place. That's something that worked for us for a few years, but this year I decided to try something different. So let me go ahead and show you how to tell when your peas are ripe. Basically, it's pretty easy to tell. The ones that are real flat and don't look like they have much in them are obviously new ones and they are not ready. You want to look for ones like this, ones that are real kind of puffed up. They should be hard. It should almost feel like there's no more room inside for those peas to continue to grow. Also, when they age a little bit, they get a little bit of a white cast to them. So like that one definitely needs to be harvested. I can tell it's been there a while. Also, you can kind of almost hear the beans or the peas rattling around inside. This one is just about perfect. It's still green, it's nice and firm, and it's definitely ready to be harvested. So we're going to go ahead and harvest some of these peas today. and let's see what we'll be having for dinner. Let's see how many we get off this harvest. So I've already done one big harvest off this bush. This one I've done 2, and then the trellis that's the archway, I've only done smaller harvests here and there, just picking the ones that are ready. So I'm gonna get going on a harvest today, and let's see how many peas we can end up shelling and having for dinner tonight. So another thing that's important about growing peas is you want to pick them as they come ripe. So basically when you notice that that pea is ready and it feels firm and all that, go ahead and pick that one, because that will help the other ones that are trying to develop put more energy towards that fruit or that veggie. Is it a fruit or veggie? It's veggie. Anyway, and then also it could encourage more blooms, which is how you get more production. So go ahead and start harvesting the ones that are ready to go. So you want to also make sure that you plant your peas in a place where there's lots of sunlight. They do like full sun. So one other tip I have for you guys is about like kids. If you're like a parent watching this, or you have like young people in your life, I definitely think that even if kids say they don't like vegetables, I guarantee they're gonna like these. They're super sweet. They don't taste like, even the ones in the freezer bags, definitely not like the canned peas. Definitely not that. The freezer bag ones, they're like, the flavor is just not the same. So you boil these up with some butter, a little bit of salt, and give them to any kid, and they're gonna eat them down. I just take my word on it, okay? The other cool thing is they can just eat them right off the vine. So you don't have to shell them. You can eat the peel. So the kids can just come along, take a big old bite, crunch it down. And it's a really fun, interactive plant if you are someone with kids in your life. Also, another cool thing about these is not only the shell good for kids or humans, but it's also good for dogs. So as I'm shelling these, I'll share some of the shells with my dogs, and they like to crunch those down, even though I'm saving the peas for us to eat later for dinner. Here is my harvest that I got today. Now that's not very much. Usually I can fill this bowl all the way, but I have been harvesting as we go. So let me go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and take this inside. And then I'm going to show you the harvest I was able to get, my most recent harvest. So another thing I will do, pardon my messy house, but you know, whatever, it is what it is. So part of what I will do is go ahead and shell these tonight, but then combine them with ones I might have done last night or the night before, so my last harvest. So honestly, this is way too much now, but this gives you an idea of, you know, how you can combine them. Now I might also freeze some of these, and freezing these is really easy. Basically you can give them a rinse, let them dry, and then go ahead and just put them in freezer bags. So I just use my freezer bags, which I'm running low on, but I'll use a freezer bag that probably and just zip it in, and then I just throw them in the freezer, and they freeze really, really well. So all winter long, if I've got enough harvest, I can pop them in, boil them, and we can have fresh peas for dinner, which is really nice. So I will go ahead and get shelling these, but I wanted to show you kind of what the harvest looks like. Oh, and this is our bee food. So if you haven't watched our beekeeping videos, you should check those out too. Hope that, you know, learning a little bit about peas has given you some motivation to want to try them. Unfortunately, spring is over, at least here for me, and mostly the country. So it definitely would be something you would have to sow next spring. But if you catch this video next spring, hopefully it will be helpful for you to think about growing peas in your garden. Well guys, thanks for hanging out with me and learning about shelling peas today. I hope that you found this information helpful, useful, or just fun to watch. If you did, if you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. I'm Destry, and if you need me, I'll be hanging out doing some yardening here in my Oregon yard. See you next time. Bye.